Hello, and welcome to Read a Brick Book with me. For this series, I'm reading Living History by Hillary Rodham Clinton. In Korea, we sometimes call a very thick book a brick book, because it almost feels as heavy as a brick. A book this long can feel intimidating. But the idea of this series is very simple. One page at a time, 1 week at a time. Hillary Rodham Clinton began her career as a lawyer and later served as First Lady, U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, and a presidential nominee. So this book is not only one person's memoir. Through her life, we can also see important parts of modern American history. And for me, this is also an English learning project. I want to build my reading stamina, review useful vocabulary and expressions, and improve my pronunciation. Page by page, week by week, we can finish a brick book together. Let's begin. Before we begin Hillary's personal story, let's look at the America she grew up in. Hillary was born in 1947, shortly after World War II. The 1950s brought the baby boom, growing suburbs, and an expanding middle class. She grew up in a suburban community where family, responsibility, opportunity, and hard work were important values. But America was also changing. The 1960 presidential election between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon helped spark Hillary's interest in politics. Then the 1960s brought the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, student activism, and major social change. By 1969, a new generation was questioning old assumptions about society, politics, equality, and responsibility. So while we read Hillary's story, we should remember, we are not only reading about one woman, we are also reading about the America that shaped her. Chapter 1 is called An American Story. This chapter takes us back to Hillary's childhood and family roots. Her mother, Dorothy, had experienced a difficult childhood herself. Those experiences helped give her compassion for people who were less fortunate and a strong sense of social justice. Hillary's father, Hugh Rodham, was disciplined, hardworking, and demanding. From him came values such as responsibility, self-reliance, and perseverance. Growing up in Park Ridge, Hillary also began showing leadership early. She organized neighborhood games, sporting events, and small charity activities with other children. So before politics or law entered her life, many of the qualities that would later shape her were already developing. Family, community, responsibility, leadership, and concern for others. So here's our question. What shapes a child before she even knows it? Now let's review some of the important vocabulary from Chapter 1. You don't need to memorize all 31 words today. The goal is to recognize them and connect them with the story. Scrawl means messy writing. Threshold can mean an entrance, but it can also mean the beginning of a new stage. Staunch means loyal and firm. Enrich means to improve or deepen something. Embark means to begin or start. A daunting responsibility is a difficult or intimidating duty. The Senate is the upper house of the U.S. Congress. Bestow means to give or grant. Aftermath refers to what happens after an important or often difficult event. Supremacy means dominance or superiority. Some useful character-related words are self-reliance, independence, self-indulgence, giving yourself too much of what you want, rigid, strict, or inflexible, and formidable, powerful, impressive, or difficult to deal with. We also have some useful verbs. Confine to limit, amass to collect, advocate to support, and aggravate to make something worse. As you read, try not to learn these as isolated words. Notice the sentence, the situation, and the person connected to each word. Learn the word, the phrase, and the context. Chapter 2 is called University of Life. The title does not refer to an actual university. It means learning from real life itself. During Hillary's teenage years, her world began to grow beyond home and school. The 1960 presidential election increased her curiosity about politics. She also started questioning what she heard rather than simply accepting it. She wanted to check things for herself. Another important influence was a Methodist youth minister named Don Jones. He encouraged young people to connect faith with service and social action. Through conversations, community activities, and exposure to different ideas, Hillary began seeing a much larger world. So the University of Life was really about learning from people, experience, service, and action. Life itself became another classroom. And that gives us today's question. When does learning begin to change the way we see the world? Let's review some key words from Chapter 2. Consternation means shock or dismay. A precinct is a district, often used in elections. Overturn means to reverse or cancel a decision. Contention can mean a claim or a point of disagreement. Angst means anxiety or worry. Intervene means to step into a situation. Hone means to sharpen or refine a skill. Emblazoned means prominently marked or decorated. A rugged individualist is someone who strongly values independence and self-reliance. Conservative generally refers to someone who favors more traditional political or social ideas. Unrelenting means persistent and not easing up. An inquisitor is someone who questions another person very intensely. A rabble-rouser is someone who stirs people up or encourages agitation. Indifference means a lack of interest or concern. And one very useful expression is diametrically opposed. It means completely opposite. That is a phrase worth remembering as a whole. Chapter 3 is called Class of 69. Now Hillary leaves the familiar world of Park Ridge and enters Wellesley College. College challenged her confidence, her assumptions, and the way she understood the world. Wellesley was also significant because it was a women's college. Women led student government, organized campus life, and learned to speak publicly with confidence. At the same time, America itself was going through enormous change. The civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, student activism, and changing social values were shaping Hillary's generation. By 1969, Hillary had become an important student leader. At her Wellesley commencement, she delivered a student address that became one of her earliest major public moments. So this chapter is really about finding a voice. Not just speaking loudly, but deciding what you believe and learning how to express it. How do we find our own voice in a changing world? Now let's review the Chapter 3 vocabulary. Hit my stride means to reach a point where you are doing something confidently and effectively. Chafed means felt irritated or restricted. In loco parentis is a Latin expression meaning in place of the parents. Quasi-parental means almost or partly like a parent. In older American English, a co-ed could refer to a female college student. Sedate means calm and quiet. Submerge means to put under water, or figuratively, to immerse yourself deeply in something. Agonizing means extremely painful. Ethos means the characteristic values or spirit of a group. Ascendance means a rise to power or influence. Now the second half. Self-righteous describes someone who is overly convinced of their own moral correctness. Nauseate means to make someone feel sick. Blood thinners are medicines that reduce blood clotting. Indispensable means absolutely necessary. Off-limits means forbidden or not allowed. Effusive means openly and enthusiastically expressive. Fervid means intensely passionate. Appear is a structure extending over water. Inarticulate means having difficulty expressing yourself clearly. Supervisors are people who oversee workers. And sliming fish, in the context of Hillary's Alaska summer job, refers to cleaning or gutting fish. These are exactly the kinds of words that are easier to remember when we connect them with a story. Chapter 4 brings us to Yale Law School. Hillary entered Yale Law School in 1969. At this point, many of the questions she had been thinking about justice, inequality, children, families, and public responsibility started connecting more directly with law. She began to see law as more than simply a profession. Law could also be a tool for solving real social problems. Her interest in children and families became especially important. She became increasingly aware of people who had very little power inside legal and social systems. One important influence during this period was Marian Wright Edelman, whose work for children and disadvantaged families helped shape Hillary's developing interest in advocacy. So Chapter 4 shows another important transition. Her ideas are becoming more focused. Concern becomes study becomes action, and action begins to become a career direction. Can law become a tool for social change? Let's review the key vocabulary from Chapter 4. Paltry means very small or insignificant. A token is a small symbol or sign. A prosecutor is a lawyer who brings a criminal case against someone. A brigade is a military unit. Round the clock means continuously, 24 hours a day. An era is a period of time. Articulate describes someone who can express ideas clearly. Stemming from means coming from or originating in something. Deplorable means extremely bad or unacceptable. A migrant is someone who moves from place to place, often for work. Deprived means lacking basic needs or opportunities. Tarnish means to damage a reputation. A draft, in this historical context, refers to compulsory military service. Denounce means to publicly and strongly condemn something. Bureaucracy refers to an administrative system. Inflict means to cause something unpleasant, especially pain or suffering. Irreparable means impossible to repair. Squalid means dirty, miserable, or unpleasant. Abdicated means gave up power or responsibility. A void can mean an empty space, and in legal contexts it can also mean invalid. Intact means whole and undamaged. And a commentator is someone who publicly analyzes or comments on events. Again, context is what makes difficult vocabulary memorable. Chapter 5 introduces Bill Clinton. This chapter marks the beginning of one of the most important relationships in Hillary's life. When Bill arrived at Yale Law School, he made a strong impression. He was energetic, intelligent, talkative, and difficult to miss. His path to Yale had already been unusual. He grew up in Arkansas, studied at Georgetown, went to Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, and eventually entered Yale Law School. Hillary and Bill began noticing each other around campus. Eventually, they were formally introduced at the Yale Law Library. And from there, conversation began. They discovered shared interests in law, politics, and public service. But they were also very different personalities. Those differences and the things they shared helped create a connection that became increasingly important in both of their lives. So Chapter 5 is not simply a love story chapter. It is also the beginning of a personal and political partnership that would continue for decades. And our question is, what makes two very different people connect? Let's finish episode 1 with the key vocabulary from Chapter 5. Hacking means coughing harshly and repeatedly. Resilient means able to recover and adapt. A cubicle is a small divided workspace. Enfranchise means to give rights, especially voting rights. Vouch means to guarantee or confirm that someone or something is trustworthy. Revive means to restore or bring something back. Coax means to gently persuade someone. A sojourn is a short stay. Effervescent wit means lively, sparkling humor. Bare-knuckled can describe something tough, direct, or aggressive. And spunk means courage, spirit, and determination. So, as a quick review, Chapter 5 shows Bill Clinton arriving at Yale, meeting Hillary, and the beginning of a meaningful partnership shaped by shared interests in law, politics, and public service. And that brings us to the end of episode 1. Thank you so much for reading and learning with me. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. I'd love to know which chapter, word, or expression you found most interesting. See you in the next episode.